Beyond romance, Santorini with 3 kids. When we arrived in Santorini, the sun was already setting. On our way to the Airbnb after picking up the rental car, the sunset was so beautiful through the window that we pulled over to enjoy it. Most of the hotels in Oia and Fira, the main towns of Santorini, were extremely expensive when booked last minute. The views in those places was stunning, but many hotels built along the steep caldera didn't even accept families with children, as it could be dangerous for them. We couldn't afford the money or the effort to splurge on those places, so we chose an Airbnb instead. It wasn't in the main towns, but it was safe, spacious enough for our family of 5, had parking, and wasn't too pricey. The next morning, the kids woke up still groggy. The highlight of a Santorini trip is Oia village with its iconic white houses topped with blue domes. Since we wanted to catch the sunset there, we planned to head over in the afternoon. That morning, we decided to explore in the opposite direction, to Kamari Beach. I didn't expect much, thinking, the sea is the sea, but the kids ended up having more fun there than at the ruins in Athens. They spent ages just tossing pebbles into the water, totally absorbed. Farther down from Kamari Beach is the Red Beach. I'd heard the trail there was rough, so I debated whether to go, but since we had time, we decided to check it out. On the drive, fields of yellow wildflowers against the blue sea and the caldera looked so breathtaking that we pulled over again. One word of caution, there's donkey manure around this area, so watch your step while admiring the view. At the entrance to Red Beach. To reach the beach, we need to climb up a rocky path and descend again, which seemed dangerous with the kids. So, we just stopped halfway and admired the view of Red Beach from above. Driving uphill toward Fira and Oia. My husband wanted to try some wine at a local winery, so we stopped by a restaurant attached to one. Since we were in Greece, we ordered Greek coffee, Santo wine, and 3 scoops of ice cream for the kids. We headed into Fira again. We grabbed sandwiches for lunch in Fira. Up to this point, we still hadn't really seen the iconic blue-domed white houses, so we made do with snapping a photo in front of a nearby building with a blue dome. We also visited the 3 bells of Fira, which I had noted down from YouTube travel videos. Beyond the 3 bells of Fira, the truly deep blue sea was amazing. And we could see clusters of white houses clinging to the caldera, Oia village as well. We finally made it to the Oia village. We parked below the village and walked up into the central square. On both sides of the square, there are rows of white restaurants and souvenir shops. Below the cliffside were accommodations only accessible to guests. We took photos in front of Panagia Chuck and decided to stroll along the path to the right. Following the crowd down a side path, we stumbled on the famous photo spot. There weren't as many blue domes in Oia as we expected, so my husband was a bit disappointed until we reached that spot where the domes lined up exactly as we'd seen in pictures. Not long into the walk, the kids complained their legs hurt, so we ducked into a restaurant. At first, we were seated inside, but when a seaside table opened up, we asked to move. The waiter explained that those seats were reserved for couples, but eventually let us switch, looking a little apologetic. It seems Santorini restaurants often prioritize those seats for parties of 2, which felt a little unfair to us. We quickly took our photos and finished our drinks, but the kids were restless and wanted to leave, so we didn't linger as long as we wanted. I thought we were good value customers, ordering for 5 and leaving shortly after. Continuing to the right, we reached the castle of Oia, known as the best sunset viewpoint. We took some pictures and sat for a while, planning to return at sunset. When the kids' legs gave out again, we stopped for an early dinner at another restaurant. Afterward, we wandered around the left side of the central square. At the end of the path, we found a shabby but scenic playground where the kids played for a while. As sunset approached, we rested in the car before heading back up. But by the time we reached the castle, the narrow alleys were already packed with people. We couldn't watch the sunset from the perfect spot, as we'd imagined, but still, we caught our first Mediterranean sunset, which was beautiful enough. When planning this trip, I hesitated to include Santorini, even though it was my husband's dream. But I ended up adding it to our itinerary. I thought, we're going all the way to Greece, how could we not go to Santorini? And I'm glad we did. The sea here had a completely different shade of blue. The sight of the caldera dotted with whitewashed houses was breathtaking. Everywhere we turned, the scenery was so gorgeous that I couldn't stop pulling out my camera. Normally, I avoid buying overpriced souvenirs, but in Santorini, I kept picking up mugs, bags, and frames decorated with its views. I expected Santorini to be beautiful, but I was worried that traveling with our 3 kids might be more challenging than the beauty of Santorini, and that it could overshadow the enjoyment of the trip. In the end, though, we were very satisfied. Personally, I liked it even more than Athens. The next day. At dawn, we woke the sleepy kids and headed to the airport. We left Santorini, taking one last look at its crescent-shaped view from above. It was such a feast for my eyes. Goodbye, Santorini.